Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. California PANICS now raising emergency funding for woke Hollywood. The governor of California is well aware now that Hollywood is collapsing. That's Hollywood's production locally in their community, and it is affecting the entire state. We all know Hollywood is based in California, and that's where all the movies and TV shows get made, but that's not how it works anymore. Because other states and other countries, even outside our own country, are fighting to get a piece of that production business. It's very good for local economies to have work being done in that economy. California has been really slow to deal with this issue, but it's also not just production in California. Executives working in Hollywood aren't getting the chance to move up like they used to. It's like they're frozen in whatever job they still have if they haven't been laid off yet. From The Hollywood Reporter, the big squeeze, why everyone in Hollywood feels stuck. That promotion isn't happening. Forget that raise. And your boomer boss isn't vacating that corner office anytime soon. Inside Hollywood's great malaise. That's on the side of making TV shows and films, and for people in the industry to get to move up into better executive positions or even have any autonomy to make decisions about what projects they're going to make. But today we're primarily talking about how production has dramatically fallen off and how now the governor has said, okay, we're going to do whatever we can here. We're going to raise some additional money. It's not enough money. And it still doesn't include financing what they really need to finance: actors, producers, things that are above the line, the people that are not the physical crew, and those physical crew people are very important, but if you're not going to help pay the cost of Tom Cruise, you're not going to help pay Steven Spielberg when you have a budget, then you're never going to compete with Georgia, who has no financial limit and does allow that. The general response from the industry is, okay, well, at least it's something, but they know it's not enough. From the Los Angeles Times, Newsom calls for a big boost in funding to California's film and TV tax credit, throwing Hollywood a lifeline. And we'll go through it. You'll see the money that they're offering to pay is more money, and people always like more money, but it's not enough. The real game is trying to get the federal government to subsidize the movie industry. From Variety, Adam Schiff urges federal incentive to keep film and TV productions in the U.S. This may also be why California is not pushing as aggressively as they could to make the changes they obviously would need to make to actually be competitive. They don't want to set up a system where the California state government is paying subsidies and getting criticized for paying subsidies, where they can essentially trick the federal government into giving them incentive funds. I mean, we've given billions of dollars to other countries for a very long time. Could they just maybe come up with a couple of billion for the film industry just to keep that a competitive industry in the United States? That's where they're obviously going with this. But for now, this is what they're doing. Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled a proposal to more than double the annual amount of money allocated to California's film and TV tax credit program as Hollywood struggles to compete with other production hubs dangling lofty incentives. And if we're talking seriously now, how is it that Georgia would have the money to do something like this, have no limit to the amount of funding they do, but California can't? I mean, is Georgia as big as California? I don't think so. In the case of Georgia, this is a new industry for them. So in California's case, yeah, they have the industry. They're trying to not lose it, and they don't want to lose it. So yeah, they'll put up a little extra money. It looks like this would probably get passed. And it's not going to solve the problem. But in the case of Georgia, if they could steal this business, it looks like it's a growing thing for Georgia. So it's a little bit more palatable, but still Georgia is a smaller economy than California is. The only reason California would be doing this is that they're trying to get the federal government to step in and pay their bills. The governor declared his intent to expand the annual tax credit to $750 million, up from its current total of $330 million, which would make California the top state for capped film incentive programs, surpassing even New York. If approved by the legislature, the increase could take effect as early as July 2025. Quote, California is the entertainment capital of the world, rooted in decades of creativity, innovation, and unparalleled talent, Newsom said in a statement. Expanding this program will help keep production here at home, generate thousands of good-paying jobs, and strengthen the vital link between our communities and the state's iconic film and TV industry. The announcement comes as Newsom and other elected officials have been under increasing pressure to act as Hollywood production struggles to rebound after the pandemic and last year's dual strikes by writers and actors. Productions have increasingly opted to film in other states due to higher tax incentives, putting a damper on California's signature film and TV industry. Underscoring the state's competitive disadvantage, about 71% of projects that were rejected by California's film and TV tax credit program chose to film out of state, according to the governor's office. I mean, why are you even going to fool around with working in California if you're in another state and it's easier to film in another state or another country? I mean, yes, getting on a plane and having to fly out to another country, yeah. But if you're going to save like 30 or 40% of the money on the production, there have been tax incentive offers in Germany through complicated financial arrangements where you could really get a production done for a lot less than a discount of 30 or 40%, like an extremely high discount and a lot of fees, and make a lot of money if you know what you're doing. And these producers, because there's so many millions of dollars involved, they know what they're doing. The only reason California could be doing this is they're going to push this on the federal government. Just watch next year. California's Film and TV Tax Credit Program was established in 2009 as a way to prevent film and TV production from fleeing to other states. Back then, the credit was restricted to $100 million per year. 5 years later, the roof was raised to $330 million a year, awarding studios tax credits of up to 25% to offset qualified production costs such as set construction or stunt equipment and wages for crew members. The credit can be applied to any tax liability companies have in California. In 2023, Newsom extended that version of the program for another 5 years and added a refundable feature entitling studios to cash payments directly from the state of California when their credits exceeded their tax bills. Although Newsom's proposal would represent a substantial increase in funding, it doesn't remove other restrictions in the state's incentive program, including a provision that excludes the salaries of actors and other above-the-line costs that are a big portion of film budgets. No writers, no producers. Below the line are the people that physically make the movie. Above the line is what you'd call the creative. It's very creative to work below the line. I'm not downing any of the below the line creative people. Making sets is very creative, but we're talking about writing, acting, producing. Aspects like that are considered above the line, and California will not reimburse those. Georgia and other rivals do not have such restrictions. So in other states, in Canada, in the UK, and Romania, I'm not involved in all the intricacies of all these tax deals in every country and every state. But as they say in the article, it's really specific to California that they will not reimburse above the line. Such a move, such as reimbursing above the line, is considered politically untenable in California, where the film incentive program has faced opposition from critics who argue that subsidizing entertainment comes at the expense of other worthy causes such as education and healthcare. Members of Los Angeles' entertainment community have recently begun urging the government to pump more funds into the film and TV tax credit program in order to curb so-called runaway production and stimulate jobs. The runaway production is when they run out of the state for a better deal for production, which literally, why would anyone not do that? Of course they're going to do that. As previously reported by The Times, industry insiders and experts overwhelmingly agree that relatively weak incentives are the main reason California is losing significant ground to Georgia, New York, Canada, the United Kingdom, and other filming hotspots around the world. You have to consider this. When you're making a production, it's almost always a financial risk of some kind. Maybe the risk is limited because you know you're doing something that looks like it's got tremendous commercial value, but still, it's a risk. Anytime you make something, it's a risk. You don't exactly know what the market's going to do. Do we know there was going to be a pandemic? If you were involved in investing your money, X dollars, let's say it's $50 million, you're doing pretty well for yourself. Would you want to spend $50 million and risk that when you can get the same product essentially for $30 million and be risking that? I mean, Consider your return on investment if you got a $100 million value out of your investment. At $50 million, you're doing great. You doubled your money. At $30 million, you've more than tripled your money. And if you bring in other investors into a deal and you got a percentage of the success, after investors, let's say, double their money, it could make all the difference when you're structuring an entertainment investment or you're structuring a transaction. It's incredibly difficult to imagine how California is going to be competitive without bringing in the federal government. New York's film and TV tax credit program, for example, is capped at $700 million, and Georgia, a popular production destination for Marvel and Netflix, doesn't have a limit at all. Quote, I believe the best filmmakers in the world are right here in Los Angeles, but it's being outsourced because of the tax credits, according to Mike DiLorenzo, president of Santa Clarita Studios. The sluggish activity in Southern California has been fueled by other factors as well, notably an overall pullback in production that reached a peak during the so-called streaming wars and cost-cutting by the major media companies. Earlier this month, Los Angeles Film Permit Office Film LA reported that production levels in the area fell by 5% in the third quarter of 2024 compared with the same stretch in 2023. And in 2023, scripted production came to a near standstill because of the Hollywood strikes. So how could you be doing less production than you were doing during the Hollywood strikes? That's almost inconceivable. And also from the LA Times, will Newsom's expanded tax credit program save California's film industry? During a news conference held at Hollywood's Raleigh Studios and attended by Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, as well as several entertainment union officials, Newsom declared his intent to increase the yearly limit to $750 million a year from $330 million for their tax credit program. Pending legislative approval, which they probably will actually get, that number would surpass all other capped film and TV tax credit programs around the country. But will it be enough to prevent film and TV shoots from fleeing the state, restore the entertainment job market, and solve California's worsening production costs? No, it will not. Many in the industry welcome the announcement as a significant move in the right direction, while acknowledging that there was more work to be done. Quote, it's a start, said Lindsay Doherty, principal officer of Teamsters Local 399, which represents studio drivers, location workers, and other Hollywood crew members. Quote, for California to be competitive with these other countries, we might need more money down the road. But this is good news in a very bad time for our members that are not working and haven't been working for quite some time. Newsom and other elected officials have faced growing calls to expand California's film and tax credit program as local production has struggled to rebound in the wake of last year's strikes by Hollywood writers and actors. I understand that other states and other jurisdictions and other countries do give tax rebates and cash payments for things like Tom Cruise's salary or a writer's salary on a movie, but it is a little bit difficult to understand how would this industry be just so special for the state of California, for California to subsidize this industry but not subsidize other industries. They're really pretty trapped. It also looks bad politically because if you think about it, you've got these movie stars that are endorsing this candidate or endorsing that candidate, and you have to wonder sometimes, are they endorsing candidates because maybe they think that the federal government will be agreeing to and pushing the Hollywood film industry and say it's for the U.S. film industry, but really it's for California? It does get a little bit hard to sell, and you have to wonder, why is it really just this industry that needs a federal subsidy at this level? And also, in the film industry at the high level, above the line, aren't these pretty much some pretty wealthy people? Like, do you really need to get help to pay Tom Cruise? Perhaps he could contribute some of his salary to help the state of California. I don't know. I don't think I would if I was Tom Cruise. I think I would just say, hey, let's film this in Romania and get me that rebate, or film it in the UK. What do I care? As of this date, I have not been mistaken for Tom Cruise. Governor Newsom, quote, needed to make this announcement now, said Kevin Clouden, executive director of the Milken Finance Institute. Quote, the morale and the impacts are very real, and if the governor didn't make an announcement in advance of the budget cycle, there would be an incredible level of uncertainty, according to Clouden. Runaway production has had an adverse effect on entertainment workers as well as ancillary businesses such as prop houses and caterers that depend on Hollywood to survive. It also destroys the entire tax base in all the areas that count on this work. Greg Bilson, whose Sunland-based ISS Props has served the industry for 3 generations, called the governor's proposed rebate, quote, a great step as it more than doubles our current incentive, but also recognized that it still doesn't put the state on par with some other regions. Quote, is it enough to be competitive with other parts of the world? No, and it never will be when you look at the income disparity and that other countries are giving as much as 40%, according to Bilson. But it is very competitive given it's California, which has the greatest infrastructure and crews in the world. Newsom's proposed increase to the California film and TV tax credit was, quote, long overdue, said Jody Simpson, a partner at law firm Fox Rothschild. Although an expanded cap may bring some production back, other states have gotten a leg up by building competing hubs with experienced crews and studio facilities. Quote, some of the intrinsic advantages of LA have been eviscerated, he said. I believe there's still an underlying preference to shooting in LA, so hopefully this brings more production back. And that's another problem, as they've lost business to, say, Georgia, or New York, or Canada, or even Romania, or the UK. There is infrastructure in these other jurisdictions now. This isn't like, do you want to just film this at Adam's house and he'll let you do it in the backyard and stuff like that? And oh, you know what? He actually has some additional land somewhere else so we could just kind of sort of make it work. And no, this is like they actually have all their sound stages. They have resources. They have people. They have networks that know how to make good TV shows and good movies and do it at a reduced cost. Part of it is the tax incentives, and another part of it is reduced labor costs in places like Georgia, where people don't make as much per hour because the cost of living is different in Georgia compared to California. California also has restrictive permitting that they do. So if you want to film something in LA, even on your own land, you're going to pay a permit fee that's going to be higher than what you'd have to pay in another one of these jurisdictions. You also have problems even estimating what all the costs are going to be. That was covered in another video where there are so many additional costs in working in California that you don't even know exactly how much money you need. So you have to over budget whatever your budget's going to actually be. It becomes really difficult and complicated at that point. Why are you even bothering with it? And that's the problem that they face. Fortunately for them, they will have Senator Adam Schiff pretty soon. I'm not a big fan of Adam Schiff's, but he's very likely to win his election as senator. And when he gets in as senator, he can push this with all of his authority and all of his contacts and stick it on top of some other part of legislation. And for the billions of dollars that they spend subsidizing all kinds of things, we'll never know how much the federal government is subsidizing. And I'm not just talking about giving money to other countries. It goes on endlessly. He'll push for it. They'll wind up getting it. And that's what Adam Schiff is telegraphing and promoting in this article in Variety. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.